Hello and welcome. Australia's tiresomely predictable election result is a clarion wake-up call to everyone capable of critical thinking. It's a deeply disturbing indication that the values of life, family and freedom now face unprecedented threats of the gravest consequence. With a renewed and strengthened mandate, this cane-toed whispering crime gang, masquerading as government, now has the power to advance policies that egregiously undermine parental rights, biological reality and religious freedom, and even our most basic right to free speech. This is not a remote possibility, it's a pressing reality, an unmistakable, clear and present danger. To many of us, the enfeebled coalition's defeat was no surprise, especially to those concerned about truth founded in morality, principle and human values. They failed to offer a compelling alternative. They refused to stand apart on issues that matter most, and they ignored repeated calls from an outraged community to take a principled stand. Being so pathetically cowed by the Rainbow Mafia, they couldn't even affirm the undeniable biological fact that a woman is a woman. And when presented with a 12-point questionnaire on life, family and freedom, they refused to respond. But amidst the bitter disappointment, there are some small consolations. The treasonous Greens lost a significant ground in the lower house, and early indications suggest that One Nation may gain additional seats in the Senate. The final count in the upper house will take weeks, and there's a real possibility that other strong pro-life, pro-family voices could be elected as well. We'll have to wait for the official declarations, but there's reason for cautious optimism. What's certain is that cane-toed whispering Labor now has a clear path to reintroduce the most seditious legislation ever, including the revival of the menacing and despotically censorious Misinformation and Disinformation Bill. And that fascist tyranny is just the beginning. The wider community cannot stand by as our precious values get jackboot trampled by these unconscionable thugs. Accordingly, we must be eternally vigilant, active and relentless in our defence of life, family, freedom and the truth. We must continually petition and mobilise the silent majority who obtusely refuse to accept the steady erosion of our most cherished principles. Millions of Australians still hold to values that the political class contemptuously ignore. So together we won't back down. Now is not the time to go quiet. We must push back harder than ever before, because in a very short time, everything you hold dear, your freedom to choose, your right to speak, your very sovereignty, is about to be signed away without your consent. Right now, we stand at a historical crossroads. Either the World Health Organization takes unprecedented control, or we resist and keep our freedom. For an exhausting 2 years, freedom's defenders fought 24/7 to prevent this venal globalist takeover. And now it's here. We currently face the greatest test of our generation. Let me bring you up to speed on what just happened at the time of writing this report. The WHO has finalised its draft of this universally resisted pandemic treaty. In a matter of days, Australia's health minister will travel to Geneva to vote, potentially signing away all your freedoms, not just for now, but for good. The WHO and its powerful allies, unelected globalist bureaucrats, are calling this treaty historic. They disingenuously claim it's about health, but let's be honest, it's a lethal trap, a calculated move to strip nations of their sovereignty and citizens of their freedom. And yet again, it rolls out under the pathetic guise of public safety. Behind the slippery speeches and diplomatic smiles, this treaty does one thing. It creates a permanent state of emergency, controlled not by you, not by your elected representatives, but by unelected globalist officials and the treasonous transnational crime cartels of Big Pharma. Here's what's at stake under this so-called treaty. The WHO could, and most certainly will, declare a global health emergency at a whim and for any fictitious reason. Our government will be legally bound to follow WHO mandates. No questions asked. Lockdowns, vaccine mandates, censorship, surveillance, everything we endured during COVID could return overnight, this time enforced by international law and UN mercenary troops. Anyone who dares to question the official narrative would be silenced. The WHO would gain direct access to Australia's resources and emergency response plans with zero democratic oversight. And now they've buried this draft in hundreds of pages of legal jargon, hoping no one notices before it's too late. They're even hiding the exact date of the final vote, making it harder to mobilise in time. This is what we're up against. Global foundations, billionaire donors, corporate lobbyists. But here's the thing, we have something they don't. We have truth, integrity and moral certainty. Collectively, we've already made a difference by delaying this evil machination over and again. We convinced powerful countries like the United States and Argentina to step away and force changes to the worst parts of the text. Their done deal has been corralled into a global showdown. And we can still stop it by joining hundreds of thousands in global campaigns. We can prevent unelected bureaucrats from signing away your sovereignty. Importantly, we don't have the luxury of time. The final vote is set for the World Health Assembly starting on May 19th, just days away. And they're doing everything possible to avoid public scrutiny, to drag us back to a world of lockdowns, closed churches, shuttered shops, silent speech and censored press. But here's the good news. The course of this fight was changed because enough people signed, shared and stood firm. This unified action delayed the treaty again and again. It forced major countries to step back. It demanded changes and exposed their plans. It turned their inevitable treaty into a global controversy. So there can be no giving up, not now, not ever. Now everything comes down to this final vote. So do you remember what it felt like during COVID when you couldn't go anywhere? When your children couldn't go to school, when you weren't allowed to leave your home and your fundamental civil and human rights were trampled, when you are relentlessly pressured to take neurotoxic vaccines without safety guarantees, just to move around, when businesses were forced to close, families were ruined, doctors were silenced, and communities were torn apart. It was a nightmare, and this treaty doesn't just risk bringing back that medical fascism, it threatens to make it permanent. They're counting on you to forget, to be tired, to be distracted, indifferent, or be too late. There are a great many among us who haven't forgotten, and we're not giving up the fight. Send a non-negotiable direction to Australia's Health Minister. Reject the WHO Pandemic Treaty. Defend our freedom, our sovereignty, and our medical rights at the World Health Assembly. And here's something else they don't want you to know. After 2 years of relentless pressure, protests and exposure, the WHO quietly slipped in a so-called sovereignty clause, a vague line buried deep in Article 24.2, claiming countries will retain the right to implement the treaty as they see fit. But look closer. In the annexes, the footnotes and the legal fine print, the WHO still holds ultimate control. They decide what qualifies as a pandemic. They label what's information. They dictate exactly how your country must respond, whether you agree or not. It's all smoke and mirrors designed to lull governments into signing and citizens into silence. Australia will fall victim to this unless we speak up loudly right now. I won't sugarcoat it. This fight has been exhausting. We've chased them to Geneva and beyond. We've protested, spoken directly to diplomats, delivered petitions and stood outside the UN in rain, cold and heat. Every session, every negotiation, every line of this treaty, we've tracked it, challenged it and held the line. But we didn't do it alone. We did it with the determination of all concerned citizens and freedom defenders. Your signatures, your voices. You've carried this fight for 2 years. You've been our strength, And now you'll need it again, because the WHO's final vote on this draft happens in just days. This is it. Unless we stop them now, there will be no more drafts, no more negotiations, just one final vote to lock this hateful treason into international law. We only win if every government feels the pressure right now. Tell your government representatives to reject the WHO Pandemic Treaty at the World Health Assembly. The WHO thinks they've already won. The text is finalised, the vote is scheduled, although they're hiding the exact date and they're counting on our coward silence. Pressure campaigns currently target every health minister attending the World Health Assembly. Your petition signature, your written protest and repeat phone calls are our most powerful weapons. Let's be certain they get our message loud and clear. Thank you.